Yep, it's going down.
Welcome back to HIVEMIND Unlimited.
And welcome to another episode of our movie series, How Did It Age? Where we watch older movies and reevaluate them with modern context. Today's movie is 1997's Titanic.
Wow, this is a slept-on movie, a little sneaky one.
Yeah, this is a cult classic.
Yes, exactly. This is James Cameron's most expensive movie ever. Not just James Cameron's most expensive movie ever. At the time, it was the most expensive movie ever with a $200 million budget. But no need to stress because it made $2.25 billion.
It made, whoa, really?
It's one of 6 movies that made it's in the 2 Billy Club.
Wow, I had no idea.
At the time, it was the most successful movie ever, only to be uprooted by Avatar, James Cameron's other movie, like a decade later.
So this guy is rich, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Let's just say he could have afforded a ticket on this big boat.
Any interest in the other movies that are in the 2 Billy Club?
Sure. I mean, go for it.
Avatar, 2.93 billion. Avengers Endgame, Avatar Way of Water, then the Titanic, Star Wars The Force Awakens, and Avengers Infinity War.
Wow, not a great list of movies there.
The interesting thing is Titanic is the one that's not a part of, like, this bigger franchise.
Yeah. Well, let's get some context on this movie. What do you got?
Obviously, it's critically beloved. It has a 7.9 on IMDb and an 88% on Rotten Teas and a 3.8 on letterboxd, and our guy Roger Ebert blew it out of the park. He gave it a 4 out of 4 and said James Cameron's 194-minute, $200 million film of the tragic voyage is in the tradition of the great Hollywood epics. It is flawlessly crafted, intelligently constructed, and strongly acted and spellbinding.
Yep.
That's nice, man. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet, Billy Zane, Kathy Bates, and a list of other people, and supposedly a background appearance from Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I never saw him.
I couldn't find him, but
he's big. You'd think he'd stick out.
Yeah, totally. But Kathy Bates was in Misery.
Yeah, she is awesome.
Yeah, she's great.
She's in a bunch of stuff, man, and she's just so funny.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the thing about this movie is that it is just so painstakingly detail-oriented. Like, James Cameron is a nut job, and this is, like, the movie that confirms that. He takes 33 trips to the actual Titanic in the bottom of the ocean between 1995 and 2005. He's, like, obsessed with the deep sea exploration of it. He makes Paramount give him $4 million before they even start doing it. And then he builds a one-of-one replica of the Titanic. At least one side is fully done. And he goes down to Baja, Mexico, puts it in a tank, creates the whole Titanic, and makes it so the whole set can move, including like the end that goes 90 degrees at the end. That like actually happens.
Yeah.
It's the extent of practical effects that I feel like is kind of like what people really look at this movie for, because it's just like on a scale that's never been done before.
He also gave every single actor on set a background, gave them like a real story of someone who was on the Titanic, even if they didn't have a line.
Yeah.
Everybody had a name and a backstory.
Yeah.
And it like is totally unnecessary.
Totally, like people that fall off the top of the boat. He's like, you were 38, you were in 3rd class, you were actually going back to America to see your kids, and it's like, all right, now jump and die.
Yeah.
But with that knowledge, it's going to be a better jump.
Right.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I think there's like 15,000 extras that get used in total. 150 of them end up on set for its entirety, which is 6 months, which is just insane. He makes people sit in water long enough to get hypothermia. Kate Winslet gets kidney disease. Like, seems like he was a freak to work with. And, it shows the whole, like, as the boat starts to sink, that is like one continuous shot because he actually sinks his own set, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, didn't Kate Winslet say that there's no amount of money that she could be paid to work with James Cameron again?
Yeah. And she like didn't do major motion pictures after this. Like she'd only do indies because like the backlash she got. Like basically this came out, everybody was like Leonardo DiCaprio next star, and everybody was like Kate Winslet's kind of fat.
Yeah, which is insane. She's not.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah, she's not fat at all.
Great rack though.
We'll get into that later.
Okay. Some other interesting, weird JC details that he does. The departure scene is all mirrored because like the way the boat would have actually been during the real departure, it would have been on the left side, and where the tank was in Baja, California was on the right side. So every writing on buildings or cars is like reversed, and people's buttons are reversed. Costumes are backwards just so he could mirror that scene for the sake of like, whatever reality.
Continuity.
And then the time we spend on the boat, we have the Bill Paxton expedition team in the beginning and at the end. And then the time you spend like watching Jack and Rose actually on the boat till the moment the ship goes completely underwater is the exact amount of time it took the boat to sink from the moment it hit the iceberg. Thanks.
Yeah,
awesome.
Didn't need that, but
awesome.
Yeah.
It won 11 Academy Awards, absolutely sweeped. 1,500 people died on the real boat.
I was going to say, I was like, no, not in the making of the movie.
Some people in the making almost died. 185 people almost died.
Yeah, some people broke their legs.
Oh, yeah, and then some people ate a pound of PCP.
Oh, right, yeah. Can you tell me this story again? I've heard like a little synopsis of it, but...
So when they're actually going to whatever Challenger Deep or the Mariana Trench, I forget which one it is, in like Nova Scotia, those scenes where it's like Bill Paxton, it's the modern day scenes. They shoot that first, like months before, like while the ship's being built, essentially. And while they're shooting that, they're in this tiny little town, and Bill Paxton has a great interview. I think it's on Larry King where he talks about this. He hates the caterer. He's been going out for lunch the whole time he's up there. But at the end of shooting one day, James Cameron's like, hey, Bill, I want to talk to you. Let's just grab some chowder. So they sit and they're having some clam chowder, and they start feeling really fucked up. And then next thing you know, like mania starts to happen. People are going crazy. People are tripping out, and they have to take the whole crew to this tiny little hospital in Nova Scotia. 185 people show up at like 1 a.m. high on PCP, including James Cameron and Bill Paxton, true A-listers. And Bill Paxton's watching people freak out in the hospital. And he tells Larry King, he goes, I went up to James and we weren't too far from where we were staying. I was like, I'm just going to go drink a case of beer until I can fall asleep. So Bill Paxton drank like 20 beers until he defeated the PCP.
Yeah, so there was PCP in the chowder.
Yeah.
And it was spiked by a caterer who had some spite because Bill Paxton kept going to other places to eat. Is that the deal? Like,
They fired the caterer, but James Cameron says, like, we have a strong suspicion of who it was, and it was someone, like, on set. It was probably more like an actor, like, pissed at James Cameron.
Ah, okay.
But an extremely dangerous thing to do.
Well, obviously, yeah.
You can't
just
PCP.
drug people, especially in chowder.
Yeah.
Because chowder's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to eat chowder and not get high. I'll get high separately.
Yeah. I don't want those to go hand in hand. But
No.
that's an awesome little story there. I thought it was myth, but there are several interviews confirming it with the people that were there. As far as casting goes, James Cameron really wanted River Phoenix for this before he died outside the Viper Room in 93. Jared Leto was heavily considered, but he refused to read because he was too cool. He was like, I'm not reading it. You can give me the role.
Wow.
And he was like, okay, whatever. Gwyneth Paltrow, Winona Ryder, and Reese Witherspoon were considered for Rose. I could see Witherspoon kind of working.
I could see Winona
Yeah,
at that time.
Young Winona.
Yeah, I mean, when I watched this, I did think, like, I don't know how old Natalie Portman was,
Yeah.
but she would have been really good.
Fuck.
Yeah, and like Keira Knightley, obviously, but I think she would have been too young.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were like the people that I thought, like,
Yeah.
oh, that fits that.
And when he did end up finally choosing Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio, they were both like pretty risky choices at the time. Like he talks about how Leo wasn't selling like tickets at the time. He had done like What's Eating Gilbert Grape and like a few, I think, Basketball Diaries and like a few other things where he's just kind of like the scraggly, gangly little kid. And in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, he's also like severely autistic. And so it was a big risk, but he like liked the look, and he was 21 at the time. The character is supposed to be 20. And so it was like a good match. Everybody else was like a little older, like Tom Cruise was considered, but they thought he was like too old. But he couldn't get Leo to read seriously. Like he would read some lines and then it would get to a romantic scene, and James Cameron describes him being like, and then like starting to goof off. And he got him to do one serious take, and he was like, all right, this is going to work. And then during the shooting, Romeo and Juliet came out, which like boosted him. And people
Romeo
were like,
plus Juliet.
right, with the bang bang.
Right, with the guns. Yeah.
And so that got him all hyped up, and it was just like a perfect moment in time. And then by the time this came out, it was like, wow,
Yeah.
meteoric rise.
Now, obviously, you had seen this movie before.
I have.
Is that right?
Yeah, I used to have the double VHS. Like this, I feel like I'd do this and Pearl Harbor and like Gettysburg were like my big stacked VHSs that I'd watch.
Okay.
And I'd usually just pop in the second one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd get it all done with that kissy and just show me the floody.
Yeah, that's what my roommate Hunter also said. He spilled root beer on the first one and
Perfect.
didn't even care.
Who cares?
He said,
Yeah.
I just watched the last 40 minutes and it was awesome.
Yeah.
I had seen this like once or twice, but I was like a baby.
You saw it as a baby. It's a weird movie to show a baby.
Yeah, I mean, my parents were like, yeah, we got to show him the classics. So it was, this and Lion King and
Lawrence of Arabia.
yep. That was one of Last of the Mohicans was a big one in the house.
That's good. Legends of the Fall.
Braveheart.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Dances
stuff like,
with Wolves.
No, not that one.
Oh,
my parents
not a
hate Kevin Costner.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
that
they are
makes-
a big Quaid family.
Yeah.
Big Quaid over Costner family.
Okay, so The Natural, no.
The Rookie was the one. That
Well,
was
The
one.
Natural is Kevin Costner.
No, I know. I said no. The Rookie.
The Rookie is
I
the
won't
one.
even talk about The Natural.
Tin Cup?
I've never even heard of it because my parents were hiding me from Costner.
Dude, Costner would have been sick in this.
Yeah, Bill Paxton in Twisters, though, as well.
Yeah, Bill Paxton is like a sexy freak in this.
Oh, yeah.
It's so weird.
Well, he's hitting on Rose still, low-key.
Tell me how the sex was.
Yeah, we'll get into that, though.
Yeah. So yeah, I've seen it. This was first time in probably 6 years though.
This was the first time for me in 20 years. I have way less in lines than I have in scenes. I have a ton in scenes, but I do like the line where Jack is talking to Rose on the deck, and he sees her engagement ring for the first time, and he says, "Oh man, look at that thing! You would have gone straight to the bottom."
Yeah.
Because she like had just tried to jump off the boat to kill
Yeah.
herself because she doesn't like her fiance, and her fiance's with her family, and she's like, I gotta get out. And then that's when Jack kind of has his moment of like talking her down in his cheeky sort of way.
You jump, I jump.
Yep, that's kind of the mantra that he
Yep.
comes up with, you know? And I just think that's really funny because
Yeah.
he's still just talking about, he's like making fun of a very serious situation that just happened.
Yeah.
And also like, look at that engagement ring.
Holy
That's
smokes.
heavy, big
Yeah.
diamonds.
Yeah, he's quippy. He's quick with it. That's his thing. He's a street kid.
In that very same conversation, he's talking about how he's talking about his drawings. He's showing all his drawings to Rose, and he talks about being in Paris. And he says, that's the good thing about Paris. A lot of girls willing to take their clothes off.
Yep.
Which is just funny. Is he supposed to be 12? I thought he was supposed to be 17.
Oh yeah, they are supposed to be 17.
Yeah, you said 20 earlier.
That's totally my man.
Oh,
My man,
it's
my
okay.
man,
Yeah.
my
So,
man.
which I just think is funny that he's a 17-year-old boy and he's talking about like drawing prostitutes in Paris.
Maybe he is supposed to be 20 and Rose is supposed to be 17.
Age gap discourse. Let's get it going.
It's 1912. That's pretty good actually for back then.
You have really got your facts all messed up, man. It's 1910. Sinks in 1911, maybe, but
This is if it was sinking for a year.
yeah, I think
thought it was 1912.
I'm almost at the War of 1812. That's different.
Okay.
That's
for
something,
sure. That's
something
a
else,
war.
totally different
That's a
history
war.
thing, and it was 100 years before ish. But I'm pretty sure it's 1910 or 11.
Not 12.
Not 12 though. That's way too late.
I swear on the art he signs at 1912.
Yes,
Anyway,
there's no way to know. So
yeah, literally no way to find
yeah,
out.
there's no way to find out. So I don't know.
Cal's also supposed to be like 34. So
Really?
yeah,
34 and 17?
yeah.
Age gap discourse. Let's get it going.
Yep, pop that downstairs. Speaking of the drawing, I love when old Rose goes to Bill Paxton's little discovery ship and she's like, I want to see my drawing. And she's looking at it and they're like, is that really you? She turns to her granddaughter and goes, it is me, dear. Wasn't I a dish? And I've never heard anyone refer to themselves as a dish, but I would eat her up.
Snack is kind of, that's like, to me, I was like, oh, that's awesome. This was filmed in 1910, 11, or 12. And 100 years later,
Yeah.
we come up with a snack.
Yeah.
And it's like not a full dish, but well, man, I'm looking like a snack.
She was a full dish.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these aren't my favorites. Rose has this like sassy disposition about her and she doesn't, she's unhappy in her engagement. And as she's getting onto the boat, she's like, to everyone else, it was like the ship of wonder. To me, it was a slave ship taking me back to America in chains. As she's entering like first class and they're hanging like Monets and Picassos up, I'm like,
She uses the term slave multiple times
Oh, yeah.
about people working on the ship. And
Yeah.
like, it's weird.
So does Jack too. He's like, man, best I get back down with the other slaves.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Classic. We get the I'm the king of the world here.
Nah,
And we
whatever.
can't gloss over that. I mean, yeah, it's become like trite over time, but that's an iconic line.
Uh-huh.
Says I'm the king of the world.
Yeah, I guess I'll interject here because maybe people can't like pick up because I'll get into it way more in scenes. I thought this movie was pretty bad. Just on rewatch, I thought the acting and the writing specifically was like horrible.
Though you have no wonder.
No, I do. I agree with. We were talking. We watched
Yeah.
it together, and the second half, great. I mean, it's like it's amazing what they're able to do. And as a disaster movie, I think it succeeds. But as like a romantic movie and like an adventure movie, just am like, wow, the acting and writing in this movie is not very good. Not held against how classic it is even supposed to be, like how everybody's like, this is an amazing movie. Just literally as a movie, just sitting down and watching it, I was like, oh man.
James Cameron is pretty notorious for awful screenplay.
Yeah.
He can do everything around it. But like, yeah, if you've ever seen an Avatar movie, you're never like, whoa, that dialogue was ripping. It's like, water, we have to save nature.
Right.
Humans, bad.
Yeah, and I'll peel back the curtain a little bit. Like, we have a doc here where we're, you know, I see your doc, and there are lines on yours that I'm like are perfect examples to me of like how it's bad at writing.
All these aren't my favorite. These are just lines that I had down.
Yeah, totally.
It's kind of a scene, but one of my favorite actual exchanges of dialogue is when Rose's mom like comes to like tie up that torture suit that she has to wear. It's like a bondage thing or something.
I think it's called a corset.
A corset. Sure. And Rose is giving her sass about how all she does is remind her that they're out of money and she has to marry Cal. And Rose is like, that's unfair. And her mom goes, of course it's unfair. We're women. Our choices are never easy. And then she goes on to say, do you want to see me being a seamstress? Do you want to see all of our beloved things going
sold
away?
at auction?
Yeah. And like that scene is actually like, because up until then and throughout the whole movie, Rose's mom is just painted as like mean, doesn't care about her daughter's emotions, and is like kind of marrying her off to keep the family's money alive. But that exchange, I feel like, is actually kind of a good insight into like the time, because it's not like women at that time had necessarily the most autonomy to just go out and have a successful career. It was like she inherited a bunch of debt from her dad, but he left a good name that allows them to like marry into a higher class. And she's like trying to make the right decision for her family, but it comes at the cost like of her daughter's own emotions.
Up until that point, the rich people have this aversion to poor people, specifically that to me feels unrealistic when they're on this big boat. To me, it's like the idea that they would all be like scoffing at anybody else on the boat is a little like, I understand that probably existed, but it is like this weird dynamic, and that kind of explains it a little bit more. Is like the only thing that they have now is their name,
right?
And that will fade because their father is gone. And she is like, while we still have this one commodity, one of the other commodities being Rose's beauty, we have to use that to our advantage. Otherwise, we will struggle. We will end up poor.
Yeah.
And so I always like kind of questioned the idea that Jack was viewed like this, was like viewed as like such a pest and a low life and somebody that Rose should never be around. And I think without that context, it doesn't work fully for me, you know?
They did just like stop doing slavery like 40 years before this though. So I feel like the social classes on the
I think they're
boat
still doing it. In many ways.
Back on the modern ship with Bill Paxton as they're all like on the edge of their seats as Rose is describing the Jack finally drawing her scene. It like ends and it cuts back into the modern scene. Everybody's like sweating. And she goes, it was the most erotic moment in my life, at least up until that point. And then they're like, and then she's like, did we do it? Sorry, Jack was a professional.
My favorite thing is right after that in the director's cut where she's like, oh, Jack was a professional. We didn't have sex. I did give him head, though.
Yeah.
It took him a long time. He was on SSRIs. Then he went down on me, and then I went down on him some more. But we didn't penetrate. We didn't have intercourse. He fingered me for a while the next day, right as the boat was going down.
Yeah.
While the band was playing.
It's director's cut.
Yeah, the director's cut. It's like a long, yeah. But it's probably my favorite scene in the
erotic.
movie. It's very,
He licks his fingers after he fingers her too.
Uh-huh.
And that part to me is awesome.
I think so too. And he loved fingers in his mouth. He was a big fan of that. And I was a fan of strangulation and choking.
Okay, I love the weird battle between Cal and Rose about art and I hate the lines.
Oh, no, yeah.
The lines in the beginning where he's like, who's that? Picasso something? Like, it's stupid.
No, he's like, oh, God, I have to, this is in my scenes, and it's one of my least favorite things about this entire movie, but Cal says, like, he hates the drawings, whatever, and she's like, I think it's interesting, and he's like, who even did those? And she's like, I don't know, something Picasso, and then he's like, he'll never make anything of himself, I'm sure of it, and I'm like, shut the fuck up. This shit is so stupid. It does this too many times. It relies on this idea of the future where like it obviously the movie itself has the knowledge of what happens after this, so it addresses it in this like aloof, oblivious way, and it's just so obvious and dumb. It's like the thing where Rose goes up to the guy who built the Titanic and is like, couldn't help but notice there's only half the lifeboats on here for the amount of people I counted them.
Smart girl.
And then he's like, nothing gets by you, Rose. He's like, there was talk of clutter on the ship, wanted it to look nice for the passengers. And then Cal goes, would be a waste of space anyway. We all know this ship is unsinkable. I'm like, shut up. Like, I hate that writing. It's so dumb.
He like hits the rescue boat with like his cane that he's like twirling. He's like, I think it's taking up too much space already. You might as well drop him off right here.
I hate it.
I bring up the art disagreement between Rose because I do like the one line as like Cal goes into his full mania in the end. Like the ship's sinking. He's first class. He's going to live. He says, it's a pity he didn't keep that drawing. It'd be worth a lot more in the morning, because he knows Jack's like handcuffed down and he's just saying like, I know how art will appreciate if I kill that dirty scoundrel that drew my wife naked.
Also, another thing is, are we meant to believe a bunch of original Monets and Picassos sank on the Titanic?
I think that's truth.
Is it?
Yeah.
No, water lilies is in a museum.
Not water lilies, but I think there were like Monets and Picassos and a bunch of other like historical stuff, including the Louis the 14th or whatever necklace.
Okay, sure, but I'm just saying like water lilies is there, and Leo's like, oh, I love like, oh, it's a Monet. She's like, oh, are you a fan? And he's like, look at his use of colors. And I'm like, no, like, that's what I mean. It's just like, it's so dumb. I don't like shit like that.
Like, is this Warhol? I love the can of soup. It's so striking how he bridged the avant-garde with the pop world.
He's like, oh, is this a Banksy? Wait, is it? You know who he is? Like,
have you seen the banana? I love that one. I do love at the end too, as Jack and Rose are going end to end, top to bottom of the ship, trying to just whatever find their way out. And some guy's praying in front of him as I walk through the valley in the shadow of death. And Jack pushes him by and goes, you want to walk through that valley a little faster, bud?
Yeah,
like,
that is funny.
By him. He's just quippy even in the darkest moments. Speaking of that, he says as he's handcuffed up in the basement, he says, I don't know about you, but I intend to write a strongly worded letter to the Light Star Company about all of this.
Yeah, that is a great line.
Yeah, he's like, he's always got a little joke, and he's definitely the strongest performance out of this.
Yeah.
I think Kate Winslet's character is just written to like sassy or like bratty and young and naive and dumb, but they give Jack this like edgy street thing that cuts through occasionally.
Yeah, they just also do a lot of movies do this, and so it's like whatever, but they make her change in personality to Stark. Like, yeah. It's very like she at the beginning is like, how dare you ask me a question like that? And like 20 minutes later, she's like, fuck you, Dad, I'm out of here. Like, fuck you, fuck all these rich people, fuck y'all. Beer. Yeah, like it's just not believable by any means.
Yeah.
And as much as I like Kate Winslet as an actress, I do not think this is a strong performance from her. I think like all the quippy stuff that Jack gets to do, his character is written a little bit better, and Leo is a great actor, and in this he does deliver a strong performance, but it's all very like Ferris Bueller-y.
Yeah.
Like he's sitting with all the rich people and he's like charming them with just his like little quips, his wit, you know what I mean? And I love how then they react to him.
Right.
Like specifically Kathy Bates' character kind of like takes him under her wing, is like, oh, you kind of look like my son, like whatever. And then I love when the one rich dude comes up to Jack and he's like, you don't want to stay out here with the women, do you? Tries to like bring him back to the party or whatever.
And then he decides not to go back to the brandy cigar room, and Cal's like, yeah, nothing but politics and business. I'm sure it'd be a bore to you.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
He's like, hey, you're stupid.
Yeah, you have no money and you're dumb, so you wouldn't like what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, the Cal's character is fucking stupid.
Billy Zane rocks.
It is such a bad character. Oh my God.
Let's get into scenes because I wanna talk about some more stuff.
If someone told me about ice fishing when I was trying to kill myself, I'd be so pissed.
Yeah, we both said I would backflip into the water.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Like, it's an annoying thing
Yeah.
that he's doing. He just starts telling an ice fishing story to somebody who's literally standing on a ledge about to kill themselves.
It's like, I know what ice fishing is. Like,
Yeah.
all right.
I can't
Sorry.
believe she didn't do it.
Why do they show the old Rose, the way it sank? The crazy, like, Bill Paxton's buddy on the boat is sitting here with this 101-year-old woman who's like, all right, so it fills up here, and then kabloomy. That's where it breaks, and then that's, everybody died. And she's like, oh, geez.
Well, she was like, not exactly how it went.
Right.
That's like, I guess they're all just setting up the idea that she's going to be able to give them more information. Because you
Yeah.
don't expect this 100-year-old woman to fucking remember all this shit. I don't think they were expecting that.
Yeah, she also remembers everything even when she wasn't there, which is so awesome.
Right, because that was what we talked about. The structure of this movie is that you're led to believe that they're basically getting the story, a first-person account of the Titanic, and that is what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And then there are a bunch of scenes where Rose is not there.
Yeah, they're like in the crow's nest or whatever, and it's just
Yeah.
the captain's talking, or it's just like Fabrizio making a cannoli or something.
And it's also not like Jack lived to tell Rose, like they were there for a couple days.
Yeah.
You know, like that's all. It's not like she's like, these stories could have been told by Jack and Rose remembers them.
No.
It's not like that.
No.
So we actually don't know much about this.
It could be all made up.
I think a lot of it is.
Yeah, that bitch lied.
No, I don't think she lied. I don't think it really. I think it's James Cameron just
James
kind of
Cameron's
filled in a
bitch.
lot of blanks.
Yeah,
And yes, I
he's
think
a
so.
liar. They are fictional characters. There is a gravestone of a J. Dawson where they buried some of the Titanic people,
Uh-huh.
but they only found that after he wrote that character, and Rose DeWitt, whatever. Those are just kind of made up characters.
Right.
Everybody else who has a name, like all the crew and everything, are based on the real people. Before they're even on the boat, when Jack wins the tickets in the poker game and it gets around to him, and he's like, two pair. He like looks at Fabrizio and he's like, my bad, buddy. You're not going to see your family for a really long time. We're going to America.
Yeah.
I love the smoke he pulls there, and then they run on. The departure scene is really great. I love all those extras and how they dodge the horses. And
I guess it's also so stupid.
it's beautiful.
Well, yeah, but they're like, he wins the poker game, and the dude goes, well, it leaves in 5 minutes. And he's like, 5 minutes? Whoa!
That's
He
awesome.
runs up to the guy, and he's like, you gotta let me on, mister.
He's like, you've been checked for lice? And he's like, we're American. We don't have lice. And he's like, get on here.
Yeah, he's like, only foreign people have lice.
Yeah, that must have
Fucking
some sort
weird.
of historical context that went right over my head.
Yeah. I also wrote down Leonardo DiCaprio ain't poor. Look at that face card. Continue.
Rose wants to kill herself after having like 2 meals with the people that she like has lived with seemingly like her whole life. Or,
Oh.
she's gotten engaged and she's with her mom, and then she has 2 meals on the boat and she's like, that's it. The boat brings it out of her. I don't know. And then when Jack gets like handcuffed, she's like in the little blanket. It takes her like 10 whole minutes to be like, no, no, no. Like she just waits to do that, which is weird too. That whole scene is kind of strange.
They call it the boat test, by the way. If you are dating somebody and you're like maybe unsure or whatever, it's a boat test. Get on a boat with them. If you feel trapped, she ain't the one for you.
Trapped like in a dangerous way?
Could be anything. It could just be like, oh man, what the hell? Like, I don't know, I feel trapped, like romantically. You got to get on a boat, go out to the middle of nowhere, and if you still feel safe and you're like, yep, that's the one, then that means you're good forever. And if the boat sinks,
Bad.
yeah, that's then get on that door.
Do you have a favorite scene?
No. No, not really. I mean, like,
You don't have a favorite scene in the Titanic.
I don't know. I like the disaster of it all. Like when there's all the shrieking in the water and then you like look out and you see all the people just like in
That's
the
a
water.
great scene.
Like that's crazy. Or like when everybody's falling down and then like Jack is kind of navigating the whole thing. He's like, oh, let's get on the front of the boat. Like hold your breath as it goes down. It's going to try to sink us down, kick to the surface. That stuff is cool. And I think that Jack does a really good job, or Leonardo DiCaprio rather, does a really great job at the end of the movie of like having those serious conversations with Rose that do kind of like foreshadow the life that she will live and does end up living without him, you know? Those things are, those are great. But most of what I wrote down is just stuff that I hated.
I'm between 3 scenes for my favorite.
Okay.
The booby drawing on the chaise lounge. That scene's awesome. It's iconic. The fancy dinner parlayed into the poor party. I do love Jack getting all gussied up, giving his little speech. Do you like that life or that rootless life? And he's like, yeah, for example, yesterday I slept under a bridge and now I'm having dinner with you fine folks.
Yeah.
It's great. Everything he needs is just the pencils and the air in his lungs. Great speech. But probably my favorite scene is when Cal loses his mind at the end and chases them with the gun and is indiscriminately shooting into crowds of people and at his fiance.
I was going to say that might be my favorite scene because it's some of the worst writing and acting in the entire movie, and it made me laugh out loud. He like has the craziest look in his eyes, and it's just like the fact that they wrote that a character would make this decision is totally jumping the shark. And I know that this is a movie about a unsinkable ship that is sinking and all these people dying and whatever. That is the most unrealistic thing in the entire movie. He just runs through the boat as it's filling with water and is just shooting and missing. Yeah. It is unbelievable.
They run by a child and he's like,
yeah, he does not care. He's like, I gotta kill this guy before
either him or my fiance. Yeah. One of them.
I'm gonna kill one of those people before they're probably gonna die anyway. Like, I can't believe it.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. The poor party is great. I love the band in that scene. The music is great. He dances with the little girl and then she gets sad when he starts dancing with Rose. You're still my main girl, Cora. And she's like, thanks, Leo. That's great.
I guess.
She dies later. That's cute, man. Have you no heart?
I have heart, but I mean it's just not a great acting performance. It's like weird. She's just like,
oh, the little kid?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's not a great acting performance.
Christ,
it's just not that good.
Holy shit!
I did like the scene from the director's cut as well, where Jack is doing the drawing of Rose when she's on the chaise lounge, and he has it on his lap, you know, and he keeps trying to draw and he keeps fucking up because the book keeps going up like this. He's like, oh fuck, oh shit, yeah. I like that. I'll tell you, the boat was going down, something else was going up. the boner, yeah, on Jack. Rose gossiping with Jack about the rich people just does not have the swagger that it needs. That's what made me think of Natalie Portman, because I think she's very good at doing this thing. Winona Ryder's another person who's really good at it, but it like over there, he's cheating on his wife. That's his mistress. Blah 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 blah. All that stuff.
She makes dirty laundry.
Yeah, like all of those like shifting around things. It feels like she's trying to remember her lines or whatever. It just doesn't have like the gusto it needs to be like, oh, she's cool. Yeah. Like, she's actually like really cool and is on Jack's level.
I feel like she's not supposed to be cool though.
Not like
she gets there.
But the writing implies that. Like, they are trying to bridge the gap between these two people of why Jack would like Rose and why Rose would like Jack early on. And that feels like that writing needed a little more like whatever. And that's why I feel like it feels so stark when she starts running around with Jack and being like, I don't give a fuck about Cal or my family. And I already talked about there's just a bunch of unnatural conversations that it's trying to give information or foreshadow that the boat is going to sink. And I'm like, listen, everybody knows the boat sinks. I don't know why it does any of this. It's like we were doing a voice throughout the movie to each other, being like, don't worry, sweetie, in 10 years you'll be able to vote and there'll be a decade of great success followed by a decade where everybody's poor, like those people down on the bottom of the ship. And then after that, there's going to be a big world war. There's going to be this guy named Hitler. Like, it's just like, it just tells the future too much. I'm like, all right, you know? The movie almost would have been better if it did that, because then it just fully like lays into the thing, you know?
I do love the one of the Watchmen too is like, you know, I can smell ice. He's like, I can smell it coming. Don't you worry. And then they get distracted by teenagers making out. And he's like, whoa!
Yeah, that's hilarious that they write in that the guys missed the iceberg because they were watching 17-year-olds make out on the deck.
And he's like, hey, man, check it out over here. Look
Ain't
at
that DeWitt character? She's one of the rich ones. Who's that poor boy she's making out with? Oh, no, iceberg!
During the iconic scene in Celine Dion's song where Rose is put on the top of the ship, she replaces Fabrizio. He puts a girl that just tried to jump off the back of the ship like the night before in the front of the ship. Like, she's like suicidal. And he's like, oh, step up. Hold your arms out.
That's like a dream sequence.
What do you mean?
Like, that's a dream, right?
No.
See, that's what it like, almost watching it this time, you almost are made to believe that that's not real.
Why?
The sky is like an unnatural color.
It's a real sunset.
I'm sure it is, but I'm saying like it also just doesn't make any sense that they would sneak up there at that moment. Like, it hasn't been the full.
He's showing her something cool.
Yeah, it just hasn't been the whole thing yet.
I'm flying, Jack.
Right.
And then he grabs some booby.
Yeah, I'm just saying it doesn't make sense in the story, like when it happens. Like it almost feels like that's a dream that Jack's having.
I don't think you could make a movie as good as Titanic.
We'll see.
I like the confidence.
I mean, I'll get to it in like my overarching thing about this movie, but I'm just like, there are just a lot of things that feel very like unnatural. And maybe it's just the time passing, but that's kind of what this series is for.
Yeah. Another scene I love, and that one that feels all too natural, is the car sex. The hand on the sweaty. They find a place to fuck, and then he comes, I'm assuming inside of her because he's classy, and he's trying to get...
Because he's classy?
Or, yeah, I guess. He doesn't want to get the car messy. Whatever. She goes, you're trembling. He's like, She had his legs shaking.
Yeah, and the hand goes down.
Oh, that is hot, hot, hot.
Yeah, and I told you while we were watching the movie, but I did pitch a Wendy's commercial at a firm that I was working at, a graphic design firm, and I pitched a commercial that was a parody of that scene for the spicy chicken sandwich where a car is shaken in a park and the windows are all fogged up, and then somebody, the camera's kind of like walking up towards it, and you're meant to believe that there's some sexing going on in there, and then a spicy chicken sandwich hits the window and goes down, and then they open the door and it's two people eating a spicy chicken sandwich, and they're just so excited that they're bouncing the car. Everybody loved it, and then they said, all right, let's move on to serious ideas. Like the same ideas we keep rerunning. They missed out. I think that commercial could have really worked. And Wendy's, if you're watching this, anybody at Wendy's, ahead. I will work with you guys on it. I think it could really work. Maybe for the 30th anniversary of Titanic, which is coming up in 2 years.
Perfect.
And maybe the spicy chicken sandwich will have a new, they like try to do campaigns every couple of years.
Ghost pepper or something, yeah.
No. I think the original recipe is perfect. There's no reason to switch it up. It's the best spicy chicken sandwich you can buy at a fast food restaurant.
It's not true. It's disgusting, honestly.
It is literally the best.
It's so gross. I can't believe you'd even say that. Well, you can't have Chick-fil-A, so you don't really get to have an opinion on this.
I have had Chick-fil-A, and I legitimately prefer the spicy chicken sandwich at Wendy's, and I think a lot of people do. It is, like, considered the best one.
Can we get back to the fucking Titanic?
Yes, we can get back to it, but you're just being so boring. It's all about, like, you love this movie, and I get it.
You're talking about Wendy's. People tuned in to watch the biggest movie of all time breakdown, not Wendy's.
Okay, but it's us talking about it. You could just watch the movie. I'm saying if you are going to watch us talk about Titanic, we're going to bring up Wendy's. That's just natural. It's a natural thing that would happen. And so I just don't get what you're so upset about. You're watching How Did It Age Titanic, not Titanic.
Can I list a couple more scenes that I liked?
Yes.
I love the big mechanical scenes. I love in the beginning when you see the giant pistons and the boys down low throwing the coal in. And then specifically when they go to halt the brakes and they try and reverse the engines to turn her away from the iceberg. That whole effort of like closing the things to slow them down, and then like the pistons slowly starting and they get just enough reverse and you're like, we're gonna miss it. And then it just touches it. That whole scene is really great. They're playing like soccer with the ice and stuff. No alarm is like that serious. Yeah. Or like no one's that alarmed rather. I love that whole scene. When Rose like goes down to find Jack and the lights start going down, I feel like is obviously the water adds to like the severity of the situation, but like when the electricity starts to go in the boat, you're like, oh fuck, they are fucked.
Yeah, I just knew that.
Everyone knows they're fucked. I'm talking about the scene.
I know, I get it. I'm saying like there is the thing that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
It does kind of bother me a little bit. There's like no big moment where everybody's just like, oh my God, this boat is going down until it happens.
I think that's the whole thing though, is like everyone was pretty convinced like, maybe half of it will sink.
But people are like running around doing things that are, and I just wish there was a moment where people are like, holy shit, this fucking thing is sinking.
I think that only happens when it's 90 degrees.
Yeah.
I think that's the whole point of the boat. It's like everybody was pretty convinced it's not going to go underwater.
Yeah.
It's unsinkable. God couldn't sink this ship.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, the boat cracking. I love that moment when it finally could. The guy who's like right there and the wood cracks and the people like fall down that.
And the way the water goes in. Yeah, that part's
so
crazy.
And then resurfacing after the final sink. We talked about that when they like, he tells her to swim up and then they get to the water, the boat is completely gone, and it's like those cuts between the rescue boats where they can hear all the chaos, and then like the one guy steps up, moves the women and children over to another boat, and he's like, we got to go back and try and save them, but then it just gets like quieter and quieter over the next 10 minutes.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I love the night rescue scene. She gets the little, his lip should have ripped with that whistle though.
What?
She grabs the whistle frozen out of a guy's mouth.
Yeah.
And just pulls out smooth. She should like rip his skin off. It's frozen to his mouth. I mean, I'm just saying it's painstakingly detail oriented. That's one where I'm like, no, okay, it's going to slip right out. In the Blu-ray remastered one, Neil deGrasse Tyson made him redo the stars.
Oh, what a dick.
Because he was
Fuck
like,
that guy.
as they were moving in the night shots, he's like, at this time in 1911 or 12, it's still up for debate, this constellation wouldn't have been here. And so he makes him redo the whole night sky.
What a literal clown. This guy is such a clown. Yeah, they filmed it in Mexico, asshole. Of course it's going to look different.
Also, like all those stars are fake. And it was like a $3 million thing at the time to make the whole night sky fake.
Wow. And my mom made stars in my room for like $12. Dollar store. Light up stars. You can do it for a lot cheaper. Just ask Joanne. Before you get into some of my favorite things that you told me about this movie, because they are incredible, I need to run through a few things that I wrote down.
All right.
Jack really been ignoring his boy Fabrizio. Doesn't even introduce him to Shorty. Fabrizio never meets Rose.
I don't even know if they're that good of pals. They were just playing poker.
I don't think that's true. I think they were best friends.
You think they were best friends?
I think so, right?
I don't know.
He does not hang out with him pretty much at all. And then they like cut to him randomly in his room at one point, but like that's it.
He's like, where's my boy Jack?
It sucks. They need more Fabrizio for show.
I hate him.
Why? Because he's
just
not Italian?
He's the most like ridiculous Italian caricature. That might be the worst character that was written.
Yeah, that's true.
Man, come on, Jack. It's like, it's unbelievable.
Oh, Jack, are you hanging out with that rich girl? Yeah, he prepared by watching Mario Brothers.
I do like when they get in the room with the other Swedes and they say in Swedish, they're like, where's Sven? Like,
Yeah.
who are these two jokers?
Yeah. Another thing I wrote down, iceberg scene looks like shit when they hit the iceberg. It looks unbelievably bad. I think everybody can agree on that. It's
Sure.
like 1997 CGI.
Yep.
And then the iceberg that actually like falls onto the boat looks
This
ridiculous.
is one of the first movies ever to use motion capture like that. So
This will lead into one of the facts that you told me about, but there's a moment where one of the like security guys on the boat or whatever says, "I'll shoot you all like dogs." And I started thinking about that phrase and I was like, that's weird. Like, why is dog the first thing you think of when you think of something to shoot?
well, I think back in the day, you had to shoot the stray dog in town because they were often rabid. So shoot them in the street like a dog was like a phrase.
Yeah, shoot them like dogs.
Because if a rabid dog got into town, you had to kill that sucker. A la Kill a Mockingbird.
Right, but I was going to say Mockingbird would be up there for things of like a list of things that I would think of when you say shoot something. Mockingbird, deer, right? Yeah.
My dear wife.
Horse.
Oh, sure.
Horse in the leg.
And once it loses a race.
Once it loses a race.
You got to blast its head off. Frog.
Frog?
I used to love hunting bullfrogs.
Oh, really?
Trick them up to the surface.
Yeah. Okay.
That character you're talking about with the gun,
Yeah.
I believe it's Lieutenant Murdoch or whatever. He's like the right hand, left hand man to the captain. He is a real guy. In the movie, I'll shoot you all like dogs. He's guarding the rescue boats with a gun. He ends up killing Tommy, the Irishman that we learned to like in the beginning, kills Tommy, and then looks at the captain, salutes him, pops his own top, falls into the ocean.
Yeah. He kills himself.
Yeah, after killing Tommy and the blood's like moving towards him, he's like, shit, I've fucked up. Blame me.
Yeah.
Does it. That guy in real life, according to people who were on the boat, saved like over 14 families, like escorted women and children onto the boat or onto the rescue boats, waited till the very last minute, ended up surviving himself, went on to fight in World War I as like an anti-U-boat captain. I don't know if he was on U-boats or not, but he like sunk German U-boats during World War I. Like I think he had 2 sinks to his credit or whatever, is like a genuine war hero, and then retires, and at the age of 67 or 66 in 1939 is a part of Operation Dynamo, which is the rescue mission like ran by civilians when the British soldiers were stranded at Dunkirk. It's a Christopher Nolan movie about that. And there's one of those boats in that movie is literally based off of that character that's in the Titanic that James Cameron, who doesn't miss a historical beat, decided to give Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's in the back, you know, a whole list of information about the guy he was, and then was like, you know what? This guy who went on to be an absolute national hero, Indiana Jones type character, let's make him shoot Tommy like a dog and then kill himself.
And you said his family was like pissed.
Irate. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely. They were like, what the fuck, James?
Yeah. Literally a guy who survived the Titanic, James Cameron made kill himself on the boat. A guy who not only survived the Titanic, but went on to live a life of service to other people.
Played 2 important roles in both world wars.
Yep. Not only is he going to die, he's going to murder someone and then kill himself.
Yep.
He's going to do a murder-suicide on the Titanic.
I absolutely love it. There's one other true character that's in this that I think is really cool when they're on the top of the boat or whatever, as it is going to 90 degrees. They're like, Jack and Rose kind of look over to their right, and there's a guy like in all white, like a big fat guy, and he's like on the same side as him. And he goes and takes like a shot out of a flask. You wouldn't think anything of it, but the head baker on the Titanic, that's who that character is based off of. And he was notorious alcoholic, big time drunk. So they just show him taking that shot. In real life, he got so drunk, falls in, swims around for almost 3 hours, doesn't get picked up by a rescue boat, just gets picked up by the boat that eventually comes and saves all of them. He's like the only guy in the water who's still like, and he says, wasn't that cold when you're that drunk?
So he survived the Titanic by being hammered.
Yeah,
that is just awesome.
Yeah.
So advice for anybody, if you're ever in a big boat accident,
get drunk.
Get wasted. It would be a submersible. Titanic 2, they got to do it. I don't want them to do it, but they're gonna. I mean, they got to do it because of the way Hollywood works. It'll be the submersible that exploded.
How's that Titanic 2?
They were going to see the Titanic wreckage. It's literally like the plot of the Bill Paxton thing, but nowadays, and instead it implodes and everybody dies, and it's all billionaires. People love the eat the rich thing, drown the rich, even better, I'd say.
Yeah, implode the rich.
Implode the rich. Yeah, it could be like the slogan of the movie. Yeah. And then like they could do alternate reality stuff too. Like there's like a Jack and a Rose character on the submersible too.
And they're like this far apart and they fall in love.
Yeah, they fall in love because they're sitting next to each other. Yeah. And I feel like nowadays Jack would have to be black, so Jack Black could be that character. And then
Jack Black is a black guy?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Whatever. I just think he'd be good. He'd be good in the movie. And then Rose could be like Millie Bobby Brown or something. Yeah, they'll probably do that. And then Mr. Beast could be on it because he said he got asked, but he's dumb. So he typed it out and it was like an outgoing message.
If Mark Wahlberg was on the plane, things would have gone down differently.
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg could be in that movie too. I mean, I'm sure. It'd suck probably, but they'll do it.
I wrote that I think today special effects would kind of ruin this movie and there wouldn't be a need to go to like the practical extents that James Cameron did. Like I feel like you just cut a lot of corners. Like back then CGI was so expensive that it was actually cheaper for them to go to the wreckage. And it's the weird instance where like the director is actually a deep sea explorer. Like that's what he liked doing anyway. So I think if it were to be made today, it would just be like kind of a shitty disaster movie with a bunch of special effects.
I got Tom Holland as Jack. I got Jenna Ortega as Rose.
Okay.
And I said the snooty husband, Cal, would be Dave Franco.
I like that.
You all right? Yeah, I just feel like Dave Franco works for the age thing. He's probably in his 30s, right?
Sure.
And so that would make sense, and I think he'd be good at it.
Yeah.
And that would obviously take away time from him playing Luigi Mangione.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Tom Holland would be really good at this.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick for Jack.
I originally put Finn Wolfhard because he kind of is good at playing like the scrappy poor kid, you know? But Tom Holland's good at everything.
Yeah, so I agree. I kind of did a reimagining.
Okay.
I think it would be like a badass movie about the crew and like the building of the ship. And maybe Tom Hanks either plays the captain who's like on his last voyage or he's like the engineer. And it's all about the construction and like the time when they built the boat. And it kind of like all leads up to the departure.
Yeah.
And
Captain
then, like,
Phillips.
Yeah.
Yeah, Captain Phillips, yeah.
Yeah, Somalian pirates take over the Titanic. Yeah. But I like the last scene, you see like the back of Rose walking on the boat, and Tom Hanks is like, all right, let's get this fucker on the ocean. And then the Finn.
Another one that would be good, another type of movie, what if they just did this but space, and they're going to Mars, and they say they've built the unbreakable like spaceship or whatever, and it's about like a bunch of rich people going to Mars for the first time, and then something happens in space and they all die.
Space spiders.
Except for some people. Some people somehow survive. I don't know how they do that. Maybe they figure out that space is basically like the ocean and you can like survive out there for a little while.
Yeah, it's like a myth that you can't take off your helmet. Someone's like, guys, it's fine.
Yeah,
I can't believe this, but I'm breathing.
Guys, it's totally fine. It is cold, so we can't be out here for a while. And they're like, what's the fastest that another spaceship can get here? And they're like, a year. And they're like, I don't know. Yeah, I think that would be kind of cool. But yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Don't make this movie again.
Yeah, no, please.
Another part of my recast is that the music would all be by Imogen Heap.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like that.
I think that'd be good because they did the Celine Dion, and it's like ethereal, and yeah, I think it'd work. Maybe like a Blade verse, one Blade verse.
Speaking of soundtrack, this is all done by James Horner and obviously Celine Dion. Apparently him and James Cameron were beefing, and he originally wanted Enya to do it, which is awesome, like the massage parlor lady. But
Wait, what about the massage parlor lady?
I feel like they play Enya in massage parlors. It's like that kind of music.
What? I guess I've never been to a massage parlor, but okay.
So what are you saying then? It sounds like you're doubting me and you've never been to one.
No, I'm not like doubting you. I'm like, that's what you associate Enya's music with is massage parlors.
Yeah, because I've heard it in there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And you've never been, right?
I've never been to a massage parlor, but I've listened to a lot of Enya, and I think Enya's awesome. I was just checking. I didn't know if there was like maybe like a Deshaun Watson situation
no, it's
of
not
Enya.
Like that.
Okay, all right. I'll tell you what, it didn't have a happy ending, this movie. Jesus Christ. That was sad.
I love the Irish band in the Poor People Party. I think they're awesome. We got the spoons in there. That guy's really like hyping them up. He's like, let's give them our all. And he'll just keep trying to play faster and faster.
Yeah.
And then the iconic orchestra playing while the ship's going down, which is a lie.
Yeah, what did you say? There's 40 survivors who said that the band was not playing.
Yeah, but like maybe they didn't know. It's chaos.
It was a big boat too. Could have been on the other side.
I love when they play the wedding dance as it sinks and they go into the gospel one or whatever. It's great. It's a pleasure playing with you fellas. Great. This album went crazy too. They sold the music of the Titanic, and I feel like my mom had it on a fucking CD.
Yeah. I just wrote down Can't Believe Shit Luck by Modest Mouse wasn't in it.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Because it says, this boat is definitely sinking. Which is just like so topical.
It's fitting for sure.
It just like fits like 100%. And I'm pretty sure it came out the exact same year as the Titanic. So maybe they just couldn't get their hands on an early copy of The Lonesome Crowded West. Great album by Modest Mouse. All about how malls were taking over the West. So check that out. I said yes, but only to say it's not as good as you remember it.
Yeah, I wrote absolutely in the instance where like I feel like now we've been far enough away from it that I know so many people that are like never seen it. Even people who like love movies, all they do is watch movies, talk about classics. This feels like one of those classics that like it's daunting. It's 3 hours plus.
I also think it's one that people just assume they already know about. Like it's not like it's like I have nothing new to say about that movie.
I would just say if you are a movie fan and it's kind of always been on the back burner, it's 100% worth watching. I gave it 3.5 stars, and I said so many moments that beg this movie to be 5 stars, and then the dialogue happens.
So we agree in many ways.
Yeah, it's like you look at, the grand staircase and the way that China is and the dress and the costume and everything, and then it's like someone opens their mouth and you're like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
It sucks.
I gave it 3 stars and said, this is a miracle of filmmaking. I just wish they wrote a better movie. Yeah. I mean, like, it really is, like, especially as the crash happens, it is like all the plates falling out. Like, it covers so many bases of these things in a disaster movie that you're like, wow. And the attention to detail is incredible. And when you know that they actually built the replica and all of those things, amazing. It's just so poorly written.
Yeah.
Like, it truly, without any of those things, would be like a 1.5 or 2 star movie to me.
Yeah.
it's just brought up by the fact that it is a miracle of filmmaking.
Yeah.
How did they do this? It is unbelievable to me. It's an undertaking that a normal person could not do.
Yeah.
And so I commend James Cameron and the rest of the crew of this movie based on those things. But I'm just like, not even Leonardo DiCaprio with a pretty sharp performance can save what the rest of this movie does. And there are like laugh out loud bad moments in this movie.
Absolutely.
More than I expected. When in my memory, I was like, wow, what a movie. And watching it, I literally laughed out loud at scenes and dialogue.
Yeah, and you look at like James Cameron obviously goes on to be like, he's like the most successful director of all time, money-wise, box office-wise. And his shitty screenplays can be kind of covered up by sci-fi, which ends up being his home base. The dialogue in that, when like you're just facing some sort of fictional threat or like in some made up world, doesn't have to be that strong. And this is like such a human story and such a historical thing that like when you insert essentially like science fiction dialogue into this, it makes it pretty laughable.
Yeah. I mean, it was still fun to watch it.
Oh,
I just think I was alternating between like a hate watch and a actual watch of the movie. Like there were moments I was like, wow, amazing. And there were moments where I was just kind of like laughing at it. And that's not what I expected from Titanic, to be honest.
Same. Yeah. I remember my last watch being like, yo, that's actually as great as everyone said. And then this watch being like, fuck. Maybe not.
Yeah. So those are our thoughts on Titanic. If you want to know what movie we're watching next for this series, by the way, join our Patreon. It's only $5 a month, or become a member on the main channel, HIVEMIND, also only $5 a month. And we'll tell you a week ahead of time what movie we're watching for the series so that you can watch along and understand and have a fresh watch in your mind. And this will all make more sense to you. And also let us know downstairs what movie we should do next, or suggest it to us on Patreon. This has been How Did It Age? Titanic, 1997. Anything else you want to say to the people out there?
I'm the king of the world.
All right. This has been Hive Mind Unlimited, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye. All right, baby. It's a big boat and it's a big bop.
It's going down. That's what
It's going down for real.
It's going down.